Yeah, I think it's Richie just clutching at more straws. I mean, we had Richie worrying about putting chess boards in public parks, and then we had Rishi, and his conferences on artificial intelligence. I was saying that's probably because there's not a lot of the real stuff around him. And Rishi concentrating on all sorts of things that are relevant far into the future, rather than concentrating on all the things that he's failed and failing in, such as his promises, such as shoring up the defenses of this country as we're looking at the prospect of war with a very small W. I don't think it's that likely, but people are certainly concerned with the cost of living crisis, immigration, all these things. He just doesn't address these, and he just talks about these lofty subjects that really are not critical to people today because he's run out of things to say about them.
Some people that actually, look, the NHS spends an absolute fortune. There are thousands and thousands of people who die each year needlessly because of tobacco. And in actual fact, if it were invented today, they probably would not be allowed to be on sale. Is he not right to focus on things like that? I mean, think of the billions we could save the NHS.
Think of the billions we could save the NHS by cutting out the zillions of middle managers paid huge salaries in the planet's most diverse organization, all the diversity managers and experts. He could save all that money tomorrow afternoon by sacking them all. Sure, he's got a point. Smoking is unhealthy. He didn't think that one up. But we've got so much more urgent things to deal with, and he's got his political future to deal with, which is not looking very good.
It's not looking good at all, and everybody seems to be deserting the party as well. But, yeah. I mean, the argument is, some people are saying that, it's a bit of a nanny state. Do you subscribe to that argument? Or do you
that's a different side to the question. That's a different issue. And is it a nanny state to tell people? I mean, go to France and tell people they can't smoke. I don't think they'd wear it. Go to Spain and it would be the same situation. Is it a nanny state or is it not? I think it probably is a bit of a nanny state. If people do want to smoke, then I guess they should be able to smoke. But he certainly can introduce all the legislation on advertising and all the things that tempt people, particularly young people, into smoking. He can, as far as I'm concerned, make those as rigid and onerous as he wants. But at the end of the day, you can't, I don't think, start arresting people in the street for having a fag.
What about the argument that some people say that actually, if you were to stop people from smoking and cigarettes weren't purchased, the government would lose a lot of money in terms of tax revenue?
I'm sure that's not something that Rishi has overlooked, but he's probably countered it by, as I say, he's clutching at straws. He's got nothing else to talk about at this point.
Well, Roger, let me bring in Bill Rammell. He's a former advisor to the bank. Oh, you're the former advisor to the Bank of England. Bill Rammell is actually a former Labour minister. Bill, what do you think about this? Is Rishi clutching at straws? That's what Roger is saying. Or is he right to point out the dangers of cigarette and try and sort of get rid of them forever?
I mean, look, I broadly support the ban, as do over 70% of the electorate. But I think Rishi Sunak's almost exclusive focus on this, when he vacillates and fails on so many other issues, really does demonstrate his weakness. There's virtually no legislation being brought to the House of Commons because every time he does bring something, he risks division and defeat, but from his own side. And I think when this comes to a vote next Tuesday, it's going to reinforce that weakness, because I think a significant number of his own MPs are going to vote against him. But on the substance of the issue, I actually think this is a welcome measure. There's huge damage that's done by smoking. It accounts deaths from tobacco account for half of the difference in life expectancy between rich and poor. And I think this could make a significant contribution. And actually, my experience is the electorate are ahead of politicians when it comes to smoking. I remember when it was a free vote when I was an MP to bring in the smoking ban in public places. And I was concerned, was it a step too far? Was it the so-called nanny state? And I did a poll of my own constituency, and over 2/3 were in favour of the ban. So I think this is the right way forward. But I think, the fact that Sunak appears to be focusing on this as opposed to so many other things like, cutting waiting lists in the health service, the lack of a social care plan, it demonstrates the weakness of his position.
But he would argue that, well, what he's doing is something that, I mean, look, to be frank, he's probably not going to be long in the position long enough to actually instill any of this. This is all just a pipe dream as far as I can see, because he's probably going to lose his job. But he would probably argue that actually this is part of the plan to save the NHS bill.
Well, it's a small contribution. I mean, yeah, the costs of people dying from smoking are about £4 billion a year. I mean, bearing in mind, this is a plan that will take a significant period of years to effectively outlaw smoking. Yes, it's a small contribution, but, he ought to be now focusing on cutting waiting lists. They've increased
Bill,
office. There's still no plan for social care.
So yes or no, then, is Rishi right to focus on banning smoking? Bill, yes or no?
Not to focus on it.
He's not right to do that. And Roger Giewald, yes or no?
No.
He's not right. Well, listen, thank you so much to both of you, former Labour Minister Bill Rummel and also former advisor to the Bank of England, Roger Giewald. Really good to talk to you both.